brings me great pleasure to officially inaugurate the National Council on Privatization.
The mandate is one of commercialization, privatization, optimizing government investment.
In airline business, you have to be prudent in whatever you do. BP, Bureau of Enterprise, the best agents that could monitor, transform, and meanwhile, whatever we call privatization today. In the area of maritime, look at our ports today. The road is not good.
Welcome to OTNA, your window to information on optimization.
The professionals say that economic transformation happens when a broad-based shift occurs from low productivity to high productivity activities. And as we say here, a sovereign nation is alive only when it grows, and growth is important for development. Welcome. This is a platform that's alive. We call it OTNA, Optimizing the Nation's Assets. Here we look at the process of growth, optimization of the nation's assets, but that's through privatization and commercialization, leading to reforms, and of course, success following after. Now, if you've been following this program, you must have seen success stories as a result of reforms carried out by the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE. But if you're just joining us, I'm sure you would want to hear and see these success stories. Well, let me assure you that as long as the Bureau of Public Enterprises keeps working on reforms, we will keep bringing you the success stories.
This is OTNA, Optimizing the Nation's Assets.
The federal government, under the leadership of Mr. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is determined to build a vibrant economy for the nation to flourish. And this is connected to the mandate of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, which is the Secretariat of the National Council on Privatization. The BPE says reforms are envisaged to align our nation's asset managers with global developments, and this is why we're here. Now, joining us on the program today is the Director, Industries and Services Department, Mr. Toibudin Oduniyi, himself a man connected to global developments. But before we hear from him, let's tap from the wisdom of a former director who served at the Bureau of Public Enterprises, Tijani Mohammed Abdullahi, a chartered accountant and fellow of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, ANAN. We'll hear about the mode of operations in the BPE.
Operations in BPE basically is the transaction process. As you are aware, there is a law which has specified enterprises to be privatized. So BPE was not just an institution, we had a program. And if you look at the Privatization Act, there are a list of companies in which federal government has shares ranging from 40 to 100%. So my job as Director of Operations was to oversee the privatization of those enterprises. And it involved first doing diagnostic study on the enterprises, and then it involved selecting advisors, and then the transaction process. Usually every year we have a program, we have a timetable, so that we know which enterprise to do. And the council, the National Privatization Council, is the apex body for and it had a number of committees. The most important committee was the technical committee. I was the secretary of the technical committee, and some members of council were chairing the committee. So my role as Director of Operations was like Chief Operating Officer of the BPE at the time. All the transactions, advisor selection, co-investor selection, steering committees, they are all part of my responsibility. And we had a management committee which met every week. We had directors, finance, legal, audit, and other department, public relations. So we had a mechanism where all the departments come together. We take decisions, and every week we used to have a media forum where we announce decisions taken by council, our proposed activities, and then take questions from journalists. We used to issue press releases every week.
The BPE explores different methods of privatization. Tijani Mohammed Abdullahi gives us the breakdown.
So we advertise for consultants in the newspapers. Once the applications are in, we now have an evaluation committee. The evaluation committee chooses the best consultant along with the technical committee on the privatization, and is subsequently approved by council in terms of the scope of work and the fees. The next stage is, once the advisors are in place, they develop documents for example, in the co-investor sale, they develop a document describing the company, its assets, liabilities, and so on. So once the information is available, the information memorandum is available, we now advertise for co-investors. The co-investors, they also specify 3 issues. First, managerial capacity, technical capacity, and financial capacity. So these were strictly, the evaluation follows those criteria. So it's advertised, and investors are invited to apply and submit proposals. We provide information for them to come and do their due diligence. We typically set up a data room. All the information, legal, all the title documents of the company, contracts, everything, they are given the chance to come and study the documents. After that due diligence process, they are required to submit a proposal. The proposal is in 2 parts. There's a technical proposal and the financial proposal. The technical proposal outlines the understanding of the challenges of the enterprise and what they propose to do. Typically, we ask for a plan. What do you intend to do? How do you intend to deal with workers? How do you intend to deal with future contracts, and so on? The financial proposal is separate. They are usually submitted in 2 separate envelopes. And you don't open the financial proposal until you shortlist from the technical. Only those that pass the technical will have their financials opened. And the financial proposals are open in public. We did that for NITEL, I think in the Transcript Hilton. So this is typically, the process is very transparent. It was, in the case of NITEL and many others, it was publicly televised live. So nobody would say that they went behind our back to change and the representatives are called. Is this your proposal? You confirm? They say, okay. But at that event, only those who are qualified, who had scored, I think, from 60 to 70%, they're invited and their financial proposals are opened. And there and then, the committee will announce the winner of the bidding. So, and then we go to council and get council to approve. And after that happens, we now enter into discussion between the enterprise and the incoming investors. We enter into a share sale agreement in which we specify all their technical proposals, what they propose to do in the company is incorporated there. And there are some do's and don'ts. For example, to protect workers, we insisted at the time in the share sale agreement that nobody will be fired in the first 6 months. And the government on its part, once the sale is concluded, no contract is entered into by the company so as not to burden the new investors with contracts. There is a tendency, once they say company has been sold, some management will enter into this contract. So there are many things we prevent the enterprises from doing until we hand over. So once the process is handed over, the company is handed over to a new investor, then we begin monitoring. In cases where the government retains certain shareholding, the council appoints directors on the board, so they can watch, monitor, and make sure that the new investor is keeping to the terms of the share sale agreement.
Now, let's change gears, shall we, as we now go to meet the Director, Industries and Services Department, Mr. Toibudin Oduniyi. Now, as one of the pillars of reforms in the BPE, whom we call optimizers, he has something to tell us about reform strategies and how the Bureau of Public Enterprises gets the job done.
So, if you recall, BP's mission is to reform. In reforming, we do have to address it from different angles. So, reform strategy can be privatization, it may be concession, it may be public-private partnership, and it could be outright commercialization. In all of these cases, the transaction team will have done an excellent job in putting together what needs to be done and getting it done. But it doesn't stop there. Once the transaction has taken place, BP owes the Nigerian public the obligation to ensure that we monitor, evaluate, and ensure that the reform objectives are achieved. And you will agree with me that is very, very important. I mean, you cannot do transactions and leave it like that. You actually need to see it through so the benefits which were envisaged at the beginning of the transaction actually deliver. So, for PTM, we are in a unique role. Some people call us the kitchen sink. Everything gets dumped in, but we do a good cleanup job, and we ensure that the government's primary objective, the desire, efficient public services, less burden on the fiscal balance, better service to the public, and profitability for this enterprise are achieved by the core investor.
Technology, no doubt, is at the heart of development globally. And Mr. Toibudin Oduniyi says the BPE has fully embraced technology while ensuring data integrity.
Absolutely. Just like the rest of the world, like the private sector have been doing, we have embraced technology full scale in BPE. I also come from a technology background, so for me coming to the BPE presented me with an opportunity to apply my vast technology skills. And you will be pleased, I'm pleased to let you know that in the last 4 years, we have shifted from a traditional paper-based organization to a digital data-driven organization. You will notice if you walk around our offices now that we actually are using maybe about 10% of the paper we were using 2 years ago. Why? Because we have embarked on a digitalization journey where we are trying to eliminate paperwork. That has also infused into our monitoring role in PTM. Now, a lot of our work involves gathering data, and as you know, data written down manually is prone to error. We have tried as much as we can, to the extent that we can, within the limited constraints that we have, develop digital ways of gathering information, analyzing them, and producing reports. One example I can give you is what we call PIPMAP, the Power Industry Monitoring and Evaluation Platform. This is a platform that we championed many years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, to gather data across the electricity sector, which provides decision makers, operators, and ourselves information about the performance of the distribution companies, the generation companies at a glance. That platform is actually now being transited into a bigger platform that will provide all players in the sector the data they need on the power sector. Within the department itself, we have built up a lot of digital tools for gathering information. We use a lot of Excel. We are working towards having a platform that will capture everything we do online. But again, there are constraints on the ability of the enterprises to send us the data in in digital form. So it's a journey, but we are very comfortable where we are in the journey. We are prepared ourselves. We're now in the process of reaching out to these enterprises, working with them to ensure that we can get data electronically and we can send them information electronically. This will eliminate a lot of data errors that we see. It will make our work more efficient and will enable us to do our job more effectively. As data travels over the internet, over different mediums, there are threat agents that are as interested in either modifying, abusing, stealing, or modifying data. Everything we do what we call security and risk assessment. For any project that we do, we are concerned, just as you mentioned, about the integrity of the data, the confidentiality of the data, and the availability of the data. These are the three tenets of security. For everything we do here, we take those seriously. And like I said before, I actually come from an information security background, and this is something that we take very serious. And our partners, the agencies we work with, all recognize that BP, for us, BP, information security is very important. So controls are built into these systems from design to implementation to ensure that access is only granted to authorized people. And the data is protected from any manipulation, any kind of tampering, either online or at rest. Only authorized people have access to the data, and there are controls that we have from time to time that check that things are working the way we expect them to work.
Undeniably, we can all agree that success is sweet, but the road to success is often bumpy. For the Bureau of Public Enterprises (BPE), determination is the wheel that drives the success of reforms. So glad we are to showcase the success stories of reforms. Thanks for being there. This is OTNA, Optimizing the Nation's Assets. And we've been listening to the Director Industries and Services Department, Mr. Toibudin Oduniyi. Now let's get to hear about the key performance indicators, KPIs, which are important in ensuring the right investors are given the nod to optimize our assets.
When we do a transaction in BPE, there are two very important documents. There's the share sale and purchase agreement. There's always the post-acquisition plan. Now, the post-acquisition plan is really what we deal with in PTM. The post-acquisition plan is like a business plan. So it sets out covenants that the core investor must meet. So what do we mean by covenants? Investment goals, targets they are committing to do, which we don't agree with, turn the organization around. In that PAP, we have all of the indicators defined already. There are what we call essential indicators. There are complementary indicators. All of these are set out in the KPIs. Beyond the KPIs, we also have industry standard indicators that we also co-opted on board. So usually you have, let me give you an instance for a paper mill. A paper mill, we have metrics around the volume of data they need to produce, the volume of the number of staff that they need to employ, the kind of output, the kind of paper they need to produce, and what kind of targets they need to meet from quarter to quarter. All of these things will be defined in the PAP.
During the monitoring and evaluation, the post-acquisition management, PAM, can determine the success or otherwise of an investor. Now, how does the Bureau of Public Enterprises (BPE) untie these knots to ensure maximum success?
Everything is a plan. The plan is an intention. In carrying that intention, once in a while you might find out that you are unable to do that. Now, what we try and do when we do the monitoring and the evaluation is to understand where the enterprises are in that 5-year path. Where we find out there are issues, we work with them and try and find out what are the causes of these issues, remote causes, immediate causes, and then we work with them on addressing these issues. Now, the enterprise know that we are there to work with them. We are there to assist them. We are there to support them. Post-transaction management is about working with the core investor to ensure they deliver the benefits that have been set out in the PAP. Now, the challenges come up every day, and the challenges are numerous. It could be industry challenges, it could be enterprise peculiar challenges, it could be an economy-wide challenges. The important thing is to dimension the issues, understand the issues, and then we drop a plan on tackling the issues. And yes, in most cases, we manage to address and overcome the issues. In some cases, there can be a few difficult ones, but everything is work in progress. No organization, now I can tell you that 90% of the enterprise that we privatized or reform have been able to deliver and achieve their PAP successfully. The other 10% are different stages, different challenges, but we work with them actively day in, day out to address the challenges.
Let's hear from our guests some lessons learned and the way forward to ensure progressive optimization of the nation's assets.
We've learned very, very important lessons. I think from the experience we've had in monitoring these organizations is to review the agreements that we make with the organizations. So when I say agreement, the SSPA and the PAP, in terms of the targets we set for the enterprises and the governance structure around dispute resolutions, remedies for non-performance, we've learned a lot in terms of what we could have done differently. We've also learned lessons around the process through which some of these core investors emerge in terms of their managerial capability and their technical capability. Usually, they will have bidded for these enterprises, supplying us some information and giving us, some information about their partners, who they are working with, what they're bringing in. Some of them have proven not to have worked out the way we expected. So we've learned a lot of lessons on the kind of due diligence we need to do, the extra checks, the extra confirmation we need to do before the transactions are consummated.
Privatization is widely expected to promote productivity and efficiency. However, among the concerns that affect investors directly is the issue of labor, and this is really very important. Now, privatization does not always mean a threat to collective bargaining and workers' involvement, as some people think. But what really is the connect, and how do we ensure that when reforms are done, labor is carried along appropriately and everybody is happy at the end? Mr. Toybudin Oduni breaks it down for us.
Labor issues are very, very thorny and very, very difficult to resolve. And I tell you why, because the unions, in their agitation for the rights of their staff, are very, very, in my view, inconsiderate of the circumstances of the enterprise. So you have an enterprise that has employed 20,000 staff over the last 40 years, but which has been badly managed. You now end up with huge pension liabilities, terminal benefit liabilities. Now, in those circumstances, what the bureau normally does is that before we do a transaction, we look at all the labor issues, we address them, we separate them from the transaction. But what you will find out is that more often than not, labor is never satisfied. And that brings up the issue of what is the fair compensation? The federal government never denies workers their benefits. Let's get that right. Anytime we do a transaction, the labor issues are dissected. We know what it will cost us, how much we need to spend, and then we make provisions for that.
The continuous engagement of the BPE is a compelling testament to the commitment to excellence and a better Nigeria. The Director, Industries and Services Department, Mr. Toybudin Oduni, has a message for all Nigerians.
My message to my colleagues out there who are labor union leaders is that we are partners. The federal government will never ever abandon our obligation to staff or privatize or reform enterprises. We will never ever deny any worker their rightful obligations. We are not perfect. Mistakes may be made, there may be errors, but we are ready to discuss these issues and we are ready to work on what needs to be done to get them resolved. What we need is engagement. We need to engage each other. I want them to know that resorting to strikes, industrial actions, is not really the best way to resolve problems. What we need to do is engage each other, understand each other, and then we will work together to address the problems.
So much to learn on this day's episode. Now, one of the acclaimed greatest coaches and leaders in the history of all American sports, his name, Vincent Thomas Lombardi, said, and I quote, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." At the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, it is a race in a constant chase for excellence, and one that must lead to the optimization of the nation's assets. And we do hope that this continues so our nation can be greater, and we'll all see it, enjoy it, and be happy after all. It's on that note that we'll wrap up today's edition of OTNA. It's been an honor being your host on the program. So we'll come your way next week. My name is Tokbe Ujime. It's bye for now.
Public-private partnerships need to be partnerships that work mutually. The best thing that we've been able to do is try to ensure that the BPE's reputation when it comes to transaction is one that is stellar. Every country learns through doing where the pitfalls are, and you get better. BP has had a lot of experience doing that.
OTNA, optimization on the go.